What's up, guys? I got the pencil here, and let's chat about the ending of Demon Slayer. And spoiler warning, pretty obvious. You clicked on the video, you saw what the title was. We're talking about the end of Demon Slayer. If you don't want to get spoiled for that, please don't watch the video. But let's talk about it. I do believe the final chapter was messy, a little bit messy, because I just thought it was strange. I just thought it was rather strange, because you would think that if great-grandfather being Zenitsu's, great-grandson, if you think that would be, there's a direct bloodline link there, you would think Kano's kid and Tanjiro's kid dating Nezuko's kid and Zenitsu's kid would be weird, and it's just, the entire chapter itself is a little bit weird and strange. I don't think any of the characters' reincarnations are placed well. Like, I don't get why Giyu's descendant and all his reincarnation, it's weird. Like, I'm not exactly sure about anything at all to do with that chapter, because it's just very strange. It was a weird place to take it, because I feel like the series would have ended just fine on chapter like 206 or whatever the chapter was before it. I feel like you didn't really need to flash forward to the future like that. Like, everything was already ended pretty well. Like, I'd say chapter 204, that's it, because I ended on 205. Chapter 204 was a fine ending to the series. Like, honestly, it gave us what we needed to know. Like, everyone was fine, everyone healed up for the most part. Kano's still missing an eye, and Tanjiro has an arm missing, but everything else was perfectly fine. Like, I don't see what we needed chapter 205 for. It just seemed to convolute things and make things a bit weird and awkward and kind of sad for some characters' descendants and reincarnations, in a sense. Not really sure what that was, not really sure why we got it. Chapter 204, though, I think it was a good ending chapter. I feel like it had a lot of feels. We got a lot of things. We see all the surviving Demon Slayers coming together one last time after the Demon Slayer Corps was disbanded, because apparently every single demon died or something like that when Muzan died, even though I guess that's how it works. I guess every single demon dies when Muzan dies. Sure, whatever, that's perfectly fine. The Demon Slayer Corps is disbanded. It served its purpose. The family that was cursed for years because they were tied into Muzan no longer has to worry about that anymore, and everyone's happy. I feel like that was a good, solid ending, and the sacrifice was even good balance to it too. I feel like the sacrifice of how many pillars they had to lose. You lost Gyomai, lost Shinobu, lost Mitsuri, lost Iguro, lost... oh my, I forget his name. Why am I forgetting his name? The Mist Pillar. Tokichiro. You lost almost basically everyone except for Sanemi, Giyu, and that's it. Those were the only two pillars left that can actually fight. Of course, Uzi is still alive, Uzi Tengen, but he's not really a fighter. He was just there defending the house, just like Rengoku's dad was. But I feel like that was a really solid ending, and I wish I could only talk about that and not what led up to that final chapter, because, well, I think second to last chapter, because we have the final ending chapter, but chapter 204 I still think is a really good ending. However, my problems come in with what got us there, because the thing with Demon Slayer was it has very interesting pacing. And what do I mean by that? I mean that sometimes the series goes at a breakneck pace, and honestly, one of the biggest examples I can think of that is Muzan suddenly killing 4 of his own lieutenants and them never ever getting replaced, and that just skipping a whole ton of possible bosses for Tanjiro and the main cast to face to show a more progressive growth. Because the one complaint I do have about Demon Slayer, it feels like Tanjiro went from not even being able to breathe in the same league as Akaza and Rengoku to suddenly being the strongest Demon Slayer to ever Demon Slayer, except for Yoruichi himself. Maybe that's just my own dissonance. I guess he had, what battles did he have? He had the battle against the Upper Moon 6 with Tengen, and then he had the battle with Upper Moon 4, I do believe it was. I believe it was Upper Moon 4. So I guess it makes sense, but it was such a large jump, because Akaza was the only Upper Moon 3, and he was so ludicrously busted. I feel like we had such a sharp jump for Tanjiro to just go from arc to arc, but bam, suddenly he's fighting up against Muzan. But I guess that's okay, quick, snappy pacing, but then there's times like this where fighting Muzan, just the series seems to grind to a halt. And no, I tried to do reviews for this series, I really did. Like, I tried to think of what I could talk about, but honestly, in the last like 20-ish chapters, when fighting Muzan began, when the ending was like in sight, the series just seemed to grind to this monotonous halt, and I'm just like, what am I reading this for right now? Why are we here? Why are we here? That was my thing when reading the chapters, because it always felt like Muzan was holding back, or something didn't sit right with me as I watched all these demon slayers, like even the pillars, like all these pillars that struggled with the upper moons, like a whole pillar and a whole other powerful demon slayer, and whole pillar and a whole powerful demon slayer in Muichiro and Genya both died fighting Upper Moon 1 alone, alongside the strongest pillar in Gyome and arguably the second or third strongest pillar in Sanemi. Just against Upper Moon 1, they ended up dying. But somehow they're all able to survive Muzan for an extended period of time, even though Muzan never really was the fighting type. He was the cowardly kill and run type. That's the thing. I feel like Muzan himself, I think he was an alright villain. Like, I'm gonna make a video on Muzan because I feel like he's interesting enough of a character to dissect to make a video on. But he seemed really out of character for like a majority of the ending. I don't necessarily understand where this sudden character shift came from, because Muzan was always a coward. So the reason he stayed there and fight so long when he could instantly execute everyone there at any time, I don't know. Like, and that's the thing. It'd be one thing if I was hypothetically thinking, oh, he could absolutely dominate everybody there in like 2 hits if he really wanted to. It'd be one thing if it didn't happen, but there literally, we open up a chapter where everyone's just body bagged by Muzan, like off screen by Muzan in probably like 2 moves, because Muzan was that exponentially more powerful than them. So I don't know why that wasn't the immediate response. Seemed strange and out of character for Muzan. It just seemed like padding. That's the thing. That's my thing. That's my issue with the ending. The ending seemed like a whole lot of padding. And another thing I don't like about the ending is, as much as I like Shinobu and I like Tamayo, I like that both of them, you know, scientists, I like that and how they work with the poison. Every single time it seemed like we needed an answer to a situation, it was always Shinobu did this, Shinobu did that, Shinobu. And while the first 2 things were cool, like I like Shinobu's sacrifice, filling her body with poison to weaken Doma enough to kill him. That was interesting enough. That death actually had a little bit of impact on me. I wish I didn't have it spoiled, but that was my own fault. I looked up Shinobu to draw her and then accidentally spoiled myself because the manga had, I think like literally the manga had just hit the point where Shinobu died, and I went up, looked at the design on the Wikia, and I literally scrolled down and saw deceased and was like, bro, come on now. But I played myself on that part. That's my bad. I can't blame the series for that. And I think that was fine. I think the initial demon to human formula not working and it being aging instead, I feel like that was fine. But my issues came in with how every single time it just seemed to be like, oh, but the disease, the cure has one more layer to it, or Shinobu added some extra thing. And I think it really comes in to bother me the most when like Tanjiro has become the Demon King just to once again stall, because no offense, as brave as this series was, just constantly chopping through characters like we're in Attack on Titan, I knew it wasn't brave enough to kill Tanjiro. So it was just like, yeah, you aren't gonna do this, so you can hurry up and not waste my time anymore. Because that's the thing, maybe if Tanjiro killing or Tanjiro becoming Demon King happened quicker, I wouldn't have minded like the false tension as much. But it came at like such an inopportune time, and for Shinobu to just be the answer and like, oh, Kano actually has this one extra bit of demon to human potion, bada bing bada boom. I don't know, it felt very forced. That's what I feel like a lot of this ending was. I feel like Muzan himself was out of character. I feel like the ending itself was padded on a lot. I feel like the pacing was really weird. I just don't get it. And the thing is, I like the Demon Slayer world a lot because it's interesting enough as a world, and it has a lot of universal aspects to it that I enjoy. Like, I like the demon marks, the Demon Slayer marks are just a universal part of the series. Like, anyone technically could access it if under the right circumstances. I like that. I like the see-through world because multiple people can access that. I like little universal prospects to it. However, certain things, I'm like, well, why didn't we really get any explanation to that? Like, one of the things that I really was interested in was Nezuko's transformation, or because it kind of popped up once and then was not necessarily mentioned again. Like, it'd be one thing if she just like grew older and was more powerful, and like, the Demon Slayer mark spawned on her as it did. But then like the horn came out of her head, she was losing control. I was just like, whoa, that's really interesting. Are we ever gonna get something like this again? And the series was just like, no, you're not getting that again. I was just like, okay, I guess, thank you very much. And then I expected the see-through world to be a lot more used against Muzan, but it was kind of used like once or twice, and like it wasn't pivotal to defeating Muzan. It was all about the sun, and I was just like, okay, seemed like a very interesting prospect to use there that was kind of underutilized. I know that was like the key to figuring out where his brains were, but okay, I guess that works out fine. Like, there was just things that I wish I could see expanded upon in this ending. Like, I thought we were going to be building. Like, I thought we were going to have, okay, the Demon Slayer marks pop up, that's going to be integral to defeating Muzan. Then the see-through world, that's going to be integral to defeating Muzan. The Breath of the Sun, all that was going to pile on top of Tanjiro, and he was going to like have a one-to-one with Muzan as that. And it kind of happened like that, but it didn't. It was the ending's strange. The ending's very strange. But I still can't say it's necessarily bad, because I think Demon Slayer isn't necessarily bad. Do I think it's the best thing ever? No, I don't. I think it is a bit overhyped. Actually, a lot overhyped. But I still think it's pretty solid. It's just that certain things just seem to pop up and never show up again. And in a series where it was actually really good about not doing that, by like having typically every new aspect be introduced as something that other characters could do, that was really good. But I don't know, I feel like the series kind of lost itself towards its ending. It kind of started to stumble around and stumble through, like it lost where it was going and what the plan was. Like, the script kind of just went out the window somewhere, and no one ever like picked it back up or went to recorrect it. And it kind of just, it lost a lot of its luster, because there was always the inclination, as I read the chapter after chapter as it came out, I was just like, what are we here for? What are we doing this for? What is going on right now? And I'll give the rest of the series this. I never necessarily asked that question before, because everything seemed to not make sense in the sense, but it kept itself consistent enough that every single character that was established stick to that character, and certain situations would make sense in the context of that situation. But the ending kind of lost that. That's my issue. The ending sort of lost its sense of internal consistency, because people were coming out of character. The Breath of the Sun, shockingly enough, it wasn't, I mean, it was useful enough, I suppose. Like, it kept Tanjiro fighting, and I guess that's the important thing that it did. But for how much it was hyped up, I feel like it was not necessarily underutilized, but it didn't really match the hype. And I feel like the see-through world didn't really match up to the hype that it was. A lot of the things, I think that's because a lot of the series lost impact when it started to stretch itself out too long. Because as much problems I have with extremely quick pacing and like rapid fire stuff and getting rid of things because it kind of loses a lot of impact, if you're going to have something like a power-up that technically is as impactful as a see-through world, is as impactful as a Demon Slayer mark that's basically an amp to Demon Slayers, all their attributes, I feel like they should play more of a process, like Igoro being in base for the most part when fighting Muzan and suddenly spiking up to his Demon Slayer mark. That should have been a massive pivotal moment where the battle tide shifted, but then he lost it, or like he couldn't maintain it, and then it was kind of just a side thing. All the pillars getting knocked down suddenly out of nowhere and everyone dying, that should have been very, very important, but it ended up not being, and we basically just got reset to square one. Tanjiro becoming a demon, that should have been very, very impactful, but no, we kind of just took care of it in 3 chapters, and it was really just filler. It was just, a lot of the battle just felt like nothing really mattered. Like, and that's a sad thing, because just like, it should have, characters were dying left and right, but I'd say the battle against the Upper Moon 1 was more impactful. Battle against Doma was more impactful. The battle against Akaza was especially more impactful than all the fights against Muzan, despite Muzan being the main antagonist, Muzan being the character that is the whole reason we even have Tanjiro in the first place. I felt like we sort of lost the point because Muzan himself lost the point, because there was really nothing that he did that really seemed in character for him, except for when he started to run. But by the time he started to run, we had been there for so long. We had been sitting here like, well, what's gonna happen next? What are we doing? What are we doing here? He lost, the moment he snapped back to being himself, we had lost all focus. So when the series tried to refocus, it just didn't work out. And not to say that the ending moments of the fight weren't good. Like, I like the fact that all the Demon Slayer Corps came together and managed to defeat Muzan as a whole, but then you had the stalling with Demon King Tanjiro, and it was just like, why? Just let it end. And I think that's the main problem. Demon Slayer didn't know how to let itself end. I feel like that was a problem ever since we got through the last Upper Moon. When Muzan showed up, the series, honestly, I feel like the Muzan fight should have been 5 chapters at most. But we got like 10, 20 chapters out of it, and that's the problem. The series couldn't stop itself. And it's very hard to end a story. I understand that, especially with how great the series was doing. But if it wasn't padded, I feel like the ending would be 10 times as solid if you cut out a whole ton of the fat, cut out a whole ton of the filler of that fight. Because I got heavy, there are 5 minutes left on Namek. I got heavy, there are 2 minutes left in the Tournament of Power. I got so many heavy vibes of, we are sitting here because a certain quota needed to be met, and we have to hit that quota before the series ends. I don't know why that's a thing. Because if it had cut off in that satisfying fashion, if the relevant things of impact, if the Breath of the Sun, if the See-Through World, if the Demon Slayer marks, if all that had combined and had proven like a good solid, maybe, like I said, 5-ish chapter fight with Tanjiro versus Muzan, or really, like I said, I really like the Demon Slayer Corps versus Muzan. If it had ended like that, then I feel like it would have been great, and it cuts off at chapter 2 or 4, of course, and we didn't get a flash to the future. But since the series just didn't know when to end, didn't know how to end, and honestly ran out of excuses to extend itself, because it showed us Muzan should have won instantly. The pillars should have been nothing to him, but they were until they weren't, and then they were again until they weren't, and it's just complete toss-up, complete time waster. And I understand wanting to continue yourself, I understand not knowing how to end the narrative, but that's the problem with the ending. It didn't know how to end itself. It kept going and going and going and going and going, and it lost all focus. Is there any way I'd say fix it? Like, yes, just cut most of it out. And I know I'm the guy who always advocates for slower pacing, and because it allows more time and impact to certain things, but when you break your own series' pacing like this, especially so close to the end, because I'll give Demon Slayer this, it technically was always fast-paced. Like, Tanjiro's family died in the first chapter, and then we got to the whole point where we were at as quick as chapter 2. The series has always been very go-getter, go from point to point to point, from arc to arc to arc. So by slowing down at the end, it made the ultimate mistake of suddenly changing itself and You just shouldn't have done that. So I'd say to fix the Demon Slayer ending, give some more importance to all the power-ups that we got at the end. Give a quicker, much cleaner, more executed fight. Focus less on extending the time, and if anything, focus it more on character. Focus it on, because the dynamic I liked about the Demon Slayer Corps themselves versus Muzan is that Muzan was so afraid to die that he always kept running from it, but the Demon Slayers were so unafraid to die because they cared so much about others that they ran directly at death, which was Muzan himself. And I like that dichotomy, so focus more on that, cut down a lot, and then I feel like you'd have a much more solid ending. And honestly, Nezuko turning back to human, I feel like it was such a, not necessarily a throwaway moment, but I feel like it should have had more impact. Like, is that just me? Did it feel like Nezuko turning back to a regular person kind of was just a throwaway part at the end of a chapter, and then that was really it? Like, I guess I understand why she turned back to human when she did, because she had to come back and prevent Tanjiro from killing everybody as a human rather than being a demon. But I honestly almost feel like it would have been better. Like, this is gonna sound weird. Like, I don't want like Demon King Tanjiro versus Demon Queen Nezuko. That would have been weird. But like, imagine if Demon Nezuko rolled out. Like, maybe this is in like the last dregs of her becoming human. Like, she's running out of regeneration. Her regeneration is slowing down a lot. But she goes up to Tanjiro and she grabs him by the shoulders, and they're just holding each other. And then they slowly but surely, like, say Tanjiro got the cure injected into him, because of course there's an extra cure for some reason, and like just slowly but surely they both calm down, because now they're with each other again, and it's always been that way, and they bring each other back fully. Like, they come back together as both humans and let the demon fade out of them, rather than extending the fight to super extra long and then having Tanjiro turn back to human because some internal struggle with Muzan. I feel like that would have been better. I feel like that would have given Nezuko's return to human more impact. I feel like it would have given the entire thing of I feel like it would have just given the ending more impact in general, and I feel like that would have worked a whole lot better. If you even want to include Demon King Tanjiro, I feel like you didn't even need to include that, if I'm being completely honest. You could have just let Tanjiro lose the eye, lose the arm. And considering the fact that him becoming a demon didn't even fully fix the eye or the arm, it really just feels like a waste of time. And completely unnecessary. Like, it kind of undermined Muzan's death in a way, because it just, all that fighting was for nothing until it was after Tanjiro was fixed again. Bada bing, bada boom. Yeah, I don't know. The Demon Slayer ending, it's a strange ending. Is it the worst ending I've seen recently? No. Not really, because I've seen canceled series end in quotation marks. But I don't know. If I had to give Demon Slayer as a whole, I'd say it's like a 7 or maybe an 8 out of 10. But at the ending, I give it like a 6, maybe a 5, just because of how messy it seemed to be, and that's me being generous and like pretending Chapter 205 doesn't exist. I feel like it shouldn't. So that's really my view on that. If I had to be real, if I had to fix it, if like Gotoge themselves walked up to me and was just like, yo, fix this ending right here, right now, I'd be like, okay, we're gonna chop out 15 chapters, we're gonna make character deaths feel quicker and more impactful, and we're gonna change Tanjiro and Nezuko reverting to human, if you want to keep the Demon Slayer stuff, or the demon part at all. But that's really my view on Demon Slayer's ending. This video was a lot, definitely a whole lot of ramble, but just like, that's the thing, I feel like the ways to fix Demon Slayer's ending are very, very simple, because there isn't necessarily much you have to fix. I'd say the problems are pretty self-evident. Just don't drag the pacing down out of nowhere. Let Muzan stay in character the entire time. Like, let Muzan be running the entire time instead of trying to fight them all for extended periods of time. And let the reversions back to human for our two main characters be more natural, and be more organic, and be more impactful. That's really it. Because that's really my only problems with the ending. It's just that it felt like it went on too long. It felt like Muzan was completely out of character, and it felt like the reversions back to humans were kind of just put in there as an afterthought. And since the entire point of the series was Nezuko becoming human again, I feel like that should have just had more impact. But that may just be me. Tell me what you guys think in the comment section below about this. Like, do you think Demon Slayer ending was perfect or good or something like that? Because I'd like to hear it. I'm not sure. I haven't really... A lot of people that I know who watch Demon Slayer, like, just watch the anime and they don't want any spoilers from the manga at all. So, if y'all happen to be first in the manga and, like, know how it ends, tell me what you guys think in the comment section below. I don't know. I feel like this series, definitely a toss-up. I like it, and I don't like parts of it, but definitely gonna get a few videos of its own. And yeah, that's really it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe. It always helps. And this is that guy with the pencil writing off.